Hey guys, finally he sleeps here. Today we're going to be putting on an aftermarket fiberglass rear diffuser onto the 2002 RSX. This is from Jay's Racing. They do make these. They're replica Honda diffusers. It's basically Honda, Acura. It's all the same thing. This is for an S2K and S2000, but it does match up with the body lines on this car. Now, any of these fiberglass aftermarket diffusers require custom brackets. They don't come with any kind of mounting hardware, so you have to do all of it yourself. It's labor intensive because it just comes down to measuring and making it look right. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Again, it doesn't have to be an Acura. This works for anything. We're going to talk about the method of how to get the diffuser to mount up to match up with your body lines. The first step is all of the stereo system in this thing has got to come out because we need to gain access to the spare tire well, which is where we're going to mount a few of the brackets. So the first thing, we got to rip all the stereo equipment out. All right, we now have access to the spare tire well, and we've got it up on ramps. We just backed them up on the ramps so that we have full access underneath the car. All right, so we got the whole bumper ripped off now at this point. This is going to give us much more access down underneath where we need to start mounting the brackets. All right, so we're underneath the car now. We're taking a look at what we've got. There's the muffler and everything's in here. Now, the gas tank is up there. Make sure, depending upon the car and what you're dealing with, you definitely don't want to be dealing with any kind of gas tank or anything. But like this right here, this is all hollow. This is direct access to the tire well. So we can mount brackets here. Now, the way this is going to work is once the bumper's on, the diffuser will mount up to the body lines here behind the wheel. But we have to mount brackets that come down that hold it in place so that it lays exactly where we want it. That's the toughest part with this, is building the brackets and getting them lined up. Okay, so now we've started making our brackets. I'll show you exactly how we're mounting them. But as you can see, like, we're doing a little bit of bending and rebending just to get the right dimensions that we have. Now, this one isn't a bracket we're going to use. This is a template bracket, which is why we bend and rebend just to get the shape and size that we want. And then once we have it, and I have the dimensions exactly how I want it, we'll make a new bracket that actually works. Now, one of the questions people have is, why would you use an aluminum solid bracket rather than an angled bracket? So let's talk about the straight bracket versus the angled bracket. So if we're dealing with a straight piece of aluminum as far as this goes, what you're going to have to do is mount multiple brackets and have one going this way and the next bracket going this way so that the flex cancels out each bracket. If you use like a pre-cut angle bracket, you have to use multiple brackets so that you do an angle at the top, then an angle bracket coming down and an angle at the bottom, because once you cut the angle to bend it, you've lost the integrity of the angle. So if you go with aluminum brackets, they're a little bit solid. They're thicker than the angle brackets that you would buy. They're going to last a little bit longer. You do have to use a few more brackets and vary the angle of the bracket, but you don't have to have near as much hardware. You just bolt it up and bolt it down, and then they hold them in place. So now we're going to mount two different kinds of brackets in here. We have one brackets that we're mounting to the frame rail. As you can see right here, we have some holes drilled into the frame rail. Now these holes here for this one are going to be a 2-angle bracket. These actually mount like this, and then it's angled at the bottom to mount the diffuser. And then we also are attaching into the pinch weld, and these are a bracket that is just one because it mounts here and comes down. So this one will flex this way. This one will flex this way. So the flex in two different directions will cancel out and hold it solid. So right now we've got a bracket here We've got a bracket here on the frame rail. We're gonna mount 2 brackets here on either side of the tow bar that comes out the back of the spare tire well, and then 1 in the front to hold it steady up here. And then we have the same 2 on the other side. So total is gonna be 7 brackets to hold the whole diffuser in place. All right, we have the first 3 brackets mounted, the frame rail one and the 2 in the pinch weld. We have them on both sides just set up so that we can see what we're doing. And when you're building these brackets, it's basically just check it, rebend it, go to the next one, check it, rebend it, go to the next one, until all of them line up with the direct. They're flat across the bottom so that everything goes up. So we're just gonna test fit the diffuser now just to see how it does. All right, so we have the diffuser dry fit with the first 6 brackets in place just to get it to line up, and everything is looking smooth. We're gonna add 2 more brackets into the middle where the spare tire well is, and then we'll dry fit it again. All right, final test fit in place. It is mounted, it is solid, all the brackets. We ended up with 3 on this side, 2 across the middle in the spare tire well, and then the same 3 over on that side. The one, I mean, we have to come through, we need to put washers and lock nuts. So we'll do a washer underneath, the bolt coming through, lock nut, and then or lock washer, and then the nut to hold everything in place. And then the next thing is we need to drill through here to feed the underglow, because we're going to run the underglow right across the middle of the diffuser, and then put a what are they called? What are these? Ground effects. Just a little piece of ground effect to hide the underglow. So we're not quite done yet, but we're getting really close. The exciting part though is it's all fit and solid. The one thing about this is it's like you measure the bracket and then drill it in at the top, and you mount it to the car. Then you test fit it, you drill 1 hole, put it in, test mount it, and then mark for the second hole. Then you take the whole thing down, drill the fiberglass, put it back in. Then you move on to the next one. So it's just up and down, up and down. You put the diffuser on, you take the diffuser off. You put the diffuser on, you take the diffuser off. Back and forth, over and over and over. It is just so time consuming. And trying to measure out the brackets to get them all to fit was probably the toughest part. It's just labor intensive. We've got probably 12 to 13 hours in this now at this point, and we're still not quite done. Up next, we need to test fit, put the bumper back on, and make sure that with the bumper this whole thing lines up. But then you're going to figure out you've got to follow that method of mounting it with the bumper off, because once the bumper's on, you can't get to any of this. So it's just a matter of understanding the steps and the path you take. All right, we have dry fit. It is mounted. Everything looks good. Next step is to take it down. And then we have to drill some holes in it to release some water. Then we got to get the car out of the garage and down onto the street so that we can tear it all apart and put it back together, because once this thing is on, there is no more going into the driveway until we fix the driveway. All right, we have the diffuser pulled off the car at this point. What we need to do now is put some holes in it so that if water comes in over it from the backside, we have some drain holes. And we're gonna just hit some corners with some holes. The holes that we see right now, these are where the brackets are going, but I'm gonna add about 6 to 8 holes throughout here so that if any water does fall on it, it drains out. Okay, so we just added some holes into the corners where the lowest spots are, like one there. I think there's one up there. We've got one in here in the corner. It's just anywhere that we feel like the lowest points are gonna be. It's a pretty big hole. We just wanna be able to drain any water that might be coming out. Now, because we're gonna run the underglow through this thing, we've gotta punch some holes through here so that we can run the underglow across and avoid anything. But the underglow in here, we don't want to light this up in the inside, so we got to run it underneath. Okay, we have the screws coming down through with washers, and then lock washers and nuts underneath. But because this is exposed, these are the only thing that has access inside the car. So we're gonna put a glob of urethane to seal this, just with urethane sealant that you use for like windows and stuff. Okay, so here is the diffuser upside down. You can see the drain holes and the holes. We're getting ready to put it on. And the holes we have here is where the LED lights are going to come through, and then we put this piece of rubber. This is just, it's the cheap ground effects or nose trim you can get on for your car, and we're using it to hide the lights from behind, so you won't be able to see them from underneath the car. This is when you know we're having problems with light. It's like I think we've got like 25 hours in it, but we've run out of daylight, so now we're using the underglow to see.